I would like to introduce myself and my guest today once again. My name is Mirella and I'm a career coach, but I used to be a flight attendant with Qatar Airways. And today with me I have an exceptional guest, Agne. Agne is an ex-cabin crew as well, but right now she's the person who has been supporting a cabin crew and also flying the crew mentally, I could say. Aga is giving support to people in different difficult moments, but not only. And we would like to talk a little bit about the past few months and what has changed in aviation, because Agne has a lot of experience in that, and she would like to share a lot of things with all of you.
Okay, Mirella, I would say I just wanted to correct one word. I probably don't like to use the word mental.
Oh, okay.
It's always, especially in the aviation industry, when we talk about the cabin crew or pilots, it always have a bit negative connotation, and with, more related to some assessments or diagnosis, things like this, which is not my job. But yes, as you said, I would say I would generally always say that I provide support. I provide support for aviation personnel, for cabin crew pilots, and employees. Who obviously we look after. And as you said, to be honest with you, these last months were so different that I think I've experienced a range of different emotions. Me as a person who are on the other end, but also person who experienced some of my colleagues who were very close to me, losing jobs and or obviously dealing with these changes in very different ways. Because I could say that, and again, it's all depend on stages, on how we were initially this year when the whole pandemic started, and I saw a lot of different ways of people dealing with it, mostly very motivated, actually encouraged by extra time and things like this, and very motivated to utilize the time that they had, yes, especially for lots of, I always see aviation industry, especially if you crew, but not necessarily even the operational staff, but especially crew pilots, it's a very fast-paced job.
Yes.
So what it does, I think it attracts a lot of personalities who are very hyper, very ongoing. They always want to be on go, and even sometimes it's work against us. And I was one of them. I don't know about you, but this extra adrenaline and rush. It's only always being on high. From one flight to another. On go. Even though sometimes it doesn't give us enough rest, but it just fits us, fits our personality. So I think the moment that it happened this year, when things just basically stopped for some time and then, went to the phase of slowing down, is something that is so unnatural to cabin crew. And I think, yes, initially, I would say a lot of people were quite happy about this because they got the space of doing other things that they neglected. But then, we could see that you have to face the discomfort at some point, and discomfort of facing things that you didn't have time, or you were neglecting, or you were just, as I always say, sort of brushing under the carpet. Things that we don't like to face, and I think one of this is sometimes, I don't know how you see it from working with, obviously some of the crew, coaching them, but it requires some reflections and require this a bit of moment of self-awareness and kind of looking into yourself, and facing some of those difficult moments of dealing with those uncomfortable emotions, kind of a range of different emotions, which I would say we sometimes have this resistance to accept, so those just comes to my mind that I would say that initially it was difficult thing for this for people that I've seen, when the roster was stopped and or now the flights are still not that frequent.
Mm-hmm.
This slowdown, it's brought lots of emotions.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely, definitely lots of emotions for, I would say, everyone. But I guess we could distinguish two types of people. Some of them, as you said, are the people who thought about the whole change of the situation as a kind of gift. Because they got the time to finally think about other things, to focus on maybe some kind of development or, friends, even relations with others. But on the other hand, there are people who actually, I think, had a very difficult time because they didn't actually know how to react in the situation and had some kind of problems accepting what has happened.
Because as you said, you know what, I mean, there are different phases
Mm-hmm.
when we did crisis, yes, and we could say the pandemic is a crisis, and it's a very traumatic experience that, obviously, especially for people working in the aviation industry, but for all of us, lots of different fears.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say initially you always have a bit of anger and I would say some kind of frustration and rejection,
Mm-hmm.
denial, I would say. So we tend to pretend that everything is fine, we will be okay. We just keep going and we utilize the time for maybe changing our lifestyle. I've seen a lot of crew actually doing amazing changes in diet, focusing on studies, on different things. So yeah, so this was like, okay, this is the first phase. But then again, then you will have this. Eventually, you cannot deny it anymore. That you have some losses. Yeah, there is this grief and there's this sadness. Yes, there is this sort of disappointment that things are not the same anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where at times and this is present for everyone. Sometimes some people would take more time, some people less, but it's hard, especially with something, the crew lifestyle is, it has those the freedom of travel, jumping to the plane and going on your days off. I mean, this has been taken away from people, and that was the reward for the hard work. And suddenly, it's that sadness, that loss. I cannot utilize my staff ticket, I cannot travel. For people who had plans to join and wanted to, obviously attend the recruitment process, and it's been taken away. So yes, that's it. And then, so obviously you have to reach that wall,
Mm-hmm.
and then sort of hit it a little bit, and it's painful. But then, as you break through it, then there's that stage what you said is acceptance. Yes,
Yes.
acceptance, which some people maybe took less time, had more courage, and say, okay, you know what, this is a moment when I can use this time, and maybe I have to look at the other options.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and for some people it came much quicker, but for some people this grief as a natural process and resistance of actually looking for other things brought more difficulties, so I would say, like you said, yes, you could see some people more quicker at accepting and adapting it, and then some people taking more time.
Yes. There are some people who, spend years thinking of resigning, but still they don't have this, stimulus to do that. So I think for some of them, it was kind of a gift, I would say. And we also talked before about failure, that actually for some of them, whatever happened was not any kind of failure. It was just a good chance to start things once again. Maybe they, of course, were forced to leave the country, to leave the lifestyle, as you said. But at the same time, they came with the motivation that, okay, now I really have the chance to start things from the beginning. And I met a few of such people who think about creating a nice environment for themselves where they can live, where they can start a new career. So they took it rather in a positive way. And also these people are more, I would say, motivated, like they have inner motivation to go on and to create new things, they get through the phase of change a little bit in an easier way.
Because sometimes when you are in slowdown and you actually have a moment to reflect, and you realize that because you got into that situation when maybe there's nothing much happening, and all what you need to do is wait. Yes, so you start to looking into what is important in my life, what are my priorities. And this is the moment which I would call is one of the key elements of the post-trauma growth, which again, pandemic and redundancies, all the situation is pretty much is a traumatic experience. So but post-trauma growth is giving us ability to grow, is ability to reprioritize certain things. Yes, so I think for what you are saying is some people realize, what, I think there are some things that may be more important for me currently, and I need to make this choice because before they were not that important, or we had other ways to kind of deal with them. So maybe some people will say, okay, they maybe were jumping to the plane every month to see their parents or family, and that was okay. But now if they haven't seen them for 6 months, they understood now, no, this is not okay for me. I really need to be closer to my family. It's important. And I would probably prefer that than actually waiting for change in aviation, So that's, some people use this as opportunity to actually look into the values. What we said, it's so important because what we start realizing why I'm not comfortable about what's going on. Yes, this was my dream job, but something been taken away, and now by being stuck in this place and not doing much, just waiting, a lot of people realize, okay, you know what, maybe there are other things that I currently need to take care of, in my life, and this is the moment when I can maybe rebuild the relationship with my parents or with my family or with my partner or other things, or go back to studies or do things that they stopped, as you said before, lots of people sometimes in the moment they join this environment and then they got stuck, and then suddenly they still haven't finished certain things in the life that maybe they should finish or they won't finish, but it's hard to make this decision. And when you said as well, I'm just jumping a little bit, but just to reflect on what you said about some people use this as an opportunity. Oh, eventually I can finish, because it's such a hard decision. You know very well that the lifestyle, no matter how much discomfort you have and how much challenges this lifestyle has of cabin crew and lack of sleep, lack of control over certain things in life, it's so hard to give up on that for a job which is more normal, I would say. So lots of people, I would say, and I still seen a lot of people who were still waiting for that moment that is not going to be their decision, because yes, it's so hard.
Yes, and this is something that actually we mentioned in our conversation, in a previous conversation, that one of the biggest problems probably is for some people that they don't want to let it go. They just try to stick to it no matter what. And it's kind of limiting ourselves, because, as you said, we should focus in this situation on the values, what really serves us, and how to build, the future life, personal and professional as well, that is aligned with the values that we have, that are important for us. And of course, it is possible, even if we don't fly anymore. There are options as well that we can, use, and we can get through it. But it's very difficult for many people.
Because it's all required to look actually for something which is not natural, to look at crisis in the positive way, that this is opportunity for transformation, that this is opportunity for me to actually reinvent myself. We talk a lot, in our chats before this conversation about building our own identity, the new identity, which maybe is in disconnection with aviation, yes, but it still can be something very exciting, but it require look into the crisis as something that is the momentum when we have a chance to rebuild ourselves, but in the differently, and use this moment of transformation, accept that, and then look for things like you said that could help us to reinvent ourselves, completely. And I said, for those people who are passionate aviators and they need that extra wings, like I would say, is to just like I said, park, like most of the pilots that I know at times, okay, they go to different things, they look into different, but they still hope that one day they can go back to aviation, which is okay. And sometimes this break can bring amazing things, and a lot of new paths that might be very exciting. And we will never do them if not the crisis, if not the trauma that we actually experienced. So this is quite a good opportunity for a lot of us.
Yes, and this is what I tell many people when I start working, with people who were made redundant or decided to leave because they know what's going on, that actually it's a chance. It's a chance to start something. Doesn't matter if you've been in aviation for 20 years, because I also, talked to some people who started flying 25 years ago and spent actually the whole life doing, just this one job. It's a chance to, discover yourself, or rediscover, I would say, and reverse the situation, as you said. Yes, it's not something. Of course, it's difficult, and we need to accept it, as you mentioned. But at the same time, it's an amazing chance, to maybe go into something that we didn't have the chance, or we didn't have the courage to go before. And focus on ourselves. So actually become more aware of what we need, what we really want, instead of just being in the comfort zone. I don't like this expression, comfort zone, but but it is something.
There's a lot of people who believe that it's good to be in comfort zone for some times, and you don't have to keep pushing yourself all the time, which I would say, yes, sometimes it's good to just give yourself time to reflect. You don't need to immediately. Sometimes I feel like people just feel like they need to immediately decide on the change, on what is the next step. When I saw a lot of people actually, some people actually taking time and giving us some time, maybe 2 months, maybe 6 months, to actually reflect on things. And that's also can be kind of comfort zone, because we don't need to necessarily do immediately things. Don't need to sign up for universities, yes, or start doing anything just for sake of doing, because it will not give us enough chance to reflect properly on things that are important. Of course, I'm hoping that we're talking about people that can manage financially, of course, because it's all depend on the personal situation, and I know this is a challenge as well for a lot of people, because financially aviation world is much less comfortable right now than it used to be, but also comes to priorities. I learned myself, that maybe I don't require everything that I used to, spend my money for, and I limit things to the most important things. Two things which comes to me, and I really want to encourage people. I'm fascinated with Brené Brown, American researcher work. And one thing that I think, if anyone who listen to us would like to look into her work, she was very active with lots of podcasts on LinkedIn during pandemic. But one thing that I want to always, it's open up the door for me, is that courage, it always comes with the fear. So those are like sisters, and sometimes a lot of people waiting for the moment when they get the confidence. Okay, so whoever listen to us, you will never get that moment. So you will be waiting and waiting and waiting, because the fear is always with courage, and that's been proven by evidence. So just to kind of, I don't know, when you were making decision to leave the aviation, Mirella, I don't know how was it for you, but I'm sure, as much as you thought a lot about this decision and you were courageous, there was still some fear. Yes, I believe so.
It actually came later on, because at the beginning, as a lot of people that you probably have met, I was the one who was so excited, like, oh, no more rosters. I'm going away. I will have my freedom. Nobody will be calling me to, put me for a flight, and so on and so on. And then probably after 2 weeks, I was on a call crying and telling my parents that I don't know what I'm going to do after coming back. So, the euphoria and the enthusiasm that I had at the beginning when I handed in my, resignation letter just disappeared somewhere. And I had the moments of doubts later on, and the fear as well. But as you say, as the fear pushes us to, to be more active, to,
as you said, what, it might show up later, and I think for a lot of people who maybe sort of were in the acceptance, but those fears can come later, when they look at things and maybe not everything meets our expectations. Yes. So we end up, I remember lots of conversation with Ola as well, who's not with us, and hopefully she doesn't mind that I'm mentioning her name. But yes, you start facing the reality, and maybe you had some hope and you were very optimistic and exciting, like you said, but obviously the reality sometimes doesn't meet our expectations. And I think also this is one thing that I always try to work with my clients and with people that I support, is to actually always say, what, have realistic expectations. Do not expect too much, because you're not in control of all the factors. Yeah. So I always say, the simplest exercise for this is always to look into, okay, what is in my control, what is not, what can I influence, and then things outside of the circle of my control and influence, I need to accept. Okay. And that gives me a better picture of of what I really can expect and from myself. I go back to perfectionist. A lot of crew or ex-crew have a lot of perfectionist traits, So again, so there's this pressure, constant pressure that I have to achieve. I have to provide this image of myself, if I come back from this aviation world, I have to look like I'm successful, that this years gave me so much and I'm this, on pedestal person. And this is not realistic, a lot of times. And there will be ups and downs, as you said. So always, I really encourage everyone to have really a more realistic expectation from themselves. And just start from like a really low level. So it will be easier to face those challenges.
Yeah, definitely. And definitely the needs that we have. We need to focus on how to satisfy our needs instead of thinking what others will think of us, what image I will create for others. It doesn't really matter, if people see us successful or not. It's what's important is how we feel with ourselves and what we're achieving, what we're creating.
And you just with this, you brought me this ikigai, Japanese concept, which actually and it's become more popular, and I keep hearing it on different social media, on different workshops. So I really encourage everyone. There's lots of YouTube videos that give a very quick overview of ikigai concept, but it actually has a chance to reflect on 4 areas, and the one which you said is the area that sometimes we look at a lot of times, because it's the area of comfort. What will pay me well? Okay, so what will pay me well? We start being, okay, where would I get the money? Yes, and then it sometimes can influence our decision to something which is completely not meeting our needs and our values. Exactly. So exactly, like you said. So one thing is, yes, I would say everyone need to start from one first thing, which I think is the nicest thing for ourselves, is what do you love to do? What is giving you this excitement, pleasure, you know, this what do you love to do, and just writing down the list of things that you love doing. Yes, writing poems, writing books, making interviews like you do, Mirella, you know, having your own channel, you know, have this mission, make that list. And then you know, just asking yourself, what am I good at? Yeah. Yes. That will give us another, you know, sort of list of things, because not necessarily what we're good at will match the list of what we love. And then, yes, as you said, the influence of what's going on in the environment, there are two things as well. It probably will give what pays well, and that's probably where the parents or family can start pressurizing us, or our friends. A lot of people say, this will not give you money, stop thinking about this, you know, this is, and we sometimes can drop certain ideas that could actually meet our like a central point, which is this ikigai. And the last thing, which I think is the quite nice thing, is what is good for the world, what the world needs. Yes, because I think especially a young generation, I think maybe you are still in that generation, it's like we want to contribute. Yes, so really want to make a change, make a difference. It's a nice reflection on what the world currently needs, and make this list. And once you meet those love, what am I good at, what can I get paid for, and what's needs, you can actually find your area of ikigai. Yes, and this is where you know, where I said, don't just leave it on listening to what other people say, or don't get influenced, but as you said, we underestimate how important it is to follow the values. Yes, as I said, you know, and it's not a nice touchy-feely kind of thing that, like you said, the coaches are doing just to you know, just to entertain their client. Yes, it's not like this, you know. Value clarification and what's important to life is present almost in all therapies that are utilized with working with clients, because we found most of people are so unhappy about the life because they might not be aware of their values. Second, their life is completely away from the values, and this reflection can give us a lot of compass, you know, and really can navigate our goals and our road of rebuilding ourselves, especially in the context of what's going on. Yes, so if you lost the job, if you worry about your losing the job in aviation, or you were planning to join and there was some compromises, I think this is also very important reflection exercise.
And this is exactly what I tell the candidates who think that, you know, you can find the right answers on the internet, or I will give you, or I will give them the right answers to get through the recruitment process. And I always say, like, no, you need to first listen to yourself. You cannot, you know, expect someone to tell you what you are good at, why you are exceptional, why you are better than the other candidate, because you come, you know, with a wide array of strengths, and even knowing the weaknesses makes you more extinguished from the other candidates, because you know how to sell yourself, you know how to fix some things that you don't have. So again, we actually come back to the, you know, to this self-awareness that we mentioned before.
Sorry, just because it just came with me, self-awareness and self-worth. Because as you said it, for example, if we start our sort of this process of you know, engagement, if you will go back to the interview or the preparation, you know, we have probably a better awareness of what were our strengths. Yes, and we can build on this in the ongoing process.
Yeah. And the values, that's also something that, you know, sometimes people ask me, but what are the values? And that's, you know, something that also requires some kind of explanation. But last year I had the chance to do an interview with a wonderful lady from Ireland. who decided to do a research and write a thesis about how the values influence our well-being. And actually, she came to very nice conclusions that, you know, people who do follow their values actually have much better and much happier lives. So it's not just something, as you said, the coaches, you know, try to sell and talk, you know, when they don't really know what to tell the client. It's actually something that's I would say a crucial part of our lives.
It is, because you know what, like I said to you, you know, when people come to us and they work in, like I said, in counseling or therapy, and all the approaches that I'm using, and it's a range of different approaches, from, you know, cognitive behavior therapy, motivation interviewing, acceptance commitment therapy, all the different ways. Everywhere we spend some time, it's not in the first session, but when the client already kind of present to us the problem, usually I see the people are lacking to understand what they really want in life, what they change they want. Yeah, they are so unhappy about certain things, and I think if we relate this to our conversation today, is again, sometimes there were a lot of things that maybe they were not suiting the personality and or you know, of the person in the aviation job, for example, or there were certain aspects that they like it. So again, it's so important to have this value clarification, just like kind of detach from everything else, so we have clarity, we are open-minded, we are not, you know, rushing into it. Because every time when I say, and I'm sure if I ask you the question, what is most important for your life, people say family. Yeah, but family might stand on the 10 position, or maybe on the 5 of the, you know. So, and then again, just making this list very mindfully and slowly will give us idea of reflecting. Okay, now I'm ready to reflect on why I feel maybe there's something which is being compromised for many years. Yes, and again, pandemic is a beautiful, I mean, maybe not beautiful, but maybe uncomfortable action moment, but good moment that sometimes we could reflect on, okay, what have I been compromising for years because I was looking into one value. Yes, maybe the adventures, maybe, you know, the interaction, maybe giving to some people, you know, which is like, I would say, the common thing that I see in crew. But then maybe some other values were so compromised, like health, you know, where, you know, obviously the aviation job is not really healthy. You have to really look after your health to really preserve, you know, your health. So again, I really believe in, you know, that I encourage everyone to do that. You know, especially in this moment of transformation, like I said, that I don't think so. No matter you crew, no matter you are related to aviation, you're not related to aviation, you are actually thinking about, you know, this job, to actually spend some time or find on internet or find a coach and just invest a little bit of money to do the value clarification exercise, because then later on we can actually set up our goals and action points according to it, or we can just reflect. I always ask my clients to do a photo of the value card that they choose and keep it with them, so when they have a hard moment or there is something which, you know, kind of tear them on both sides and they're not sure what, look at the values and see, okay, because it gives a peace, give kind of grounding. You know, where should be the direction, what choices would I want to make, you know, and yeah, and the values changing. So, you know, I think that this post-trauma grow after pandemic, and now obviously second wave, we don't know what's going to happen. It gives us again this reflection, okay, you know what is currently important for me, because this present moment is really crucial that we continue reflecting on the values. Because if I ask you, I'm sure, Mirella, you had this done many times, and I'm sure your values keep changing here, and they're very different from those that you had prior joining, like say, you know, Qatar Airways, and for example, you know, the values that you have right now.
Yes, definitely, because my mindset changed. Yes, the reality changed as well. And definitely one of my values is traveling, but right now it's actually, you know, it doesn't exist. So of course I need to focus on other things, and I need to reevaluate certain, things. But as you said, there are moments where we have to leave the dream somewhere on the side, and we will have a better moment to come back to it later. So
I'm just thinking, if I would become for a moment your coach, so I would probably ask you, saying, okay, what was there in this traveling that was, what was the need for you in the traveling, and probably dig a little bit more to that needs and try to find some other ways to fulfill that need.
Mm-hmm. Yes, well, we talked already about the adventures, yes, and we talk about the personality of cabin crew. That we are the people who I'm not cabin crew anymore, but still I find myself as someone who has this mindset and this idea of moving around, exploring the world, meeting people, and so on is very important for me. So definitely that's something that was important for me, and probably also this kind of continuation of what started when I joined Qatar Airways. Yes, this lifestyle of constant moving, traveling, being in different parts of the world. I didn't want to lose it, so that was like one of the core values for me. Like, I had to do everything in my professional life that would manage to fulfill the need of traveling and going and being around the world. So we have to sometimes.
I know that you still managed to travel in this period of last month, so I'm very jealous. I mean, you're talking to someone like me who always, every week, my friends would say, I would jump to the plane and I'll just decide to go somewhere for a weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But what I realized as well is maybe this is not something that was actually serving me, because, maybe there was just certain needs that I try to fulfill, and I look into, okay, what would be benefits if I would travel less, or maybe I don't travel? Is there an opportunity for me to use this time differently,
Mm-hmm.
And I feel much more grounded. I'm not saying I miss this, but I feel like, okay, if things will get back more normal, I still haven't traveled since February. That was my last trip, which is almost like impossible in my
Mm-hmm.
character. But I felt, okay, maybe I would choose to travel less and more mindfully. I would choose those places for a certain reason rather than just keep jumping to the planes and just touch on some places. So I already established that my travel, I would want to do it differently now, so those kind of reflection, I think, can come to lots of people, and they say there are benefit of that slowdown.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely it's important to focus on ourselves and not on the needs of the society and the place where we live and the expectations that others have but we don't. So once we can focus really on what we want, what is good for us, not good for others, then we can actually start a new life, build new reality, and reinvent ourselves.
Yeah, and just believe in ourselves, because you know what, if we believe a little bit, and maybe sometimes we just have to start a bit lower. And like I said, this comes to expectation. I've worked with, I've seen many people who had very glamorous life for last few years, and now they're going to very simple jobs or profession, and they find something joyful there because they actually fulfill other values. Yeah. And they sort of park certain things for some time, and then just, yeah. So that's why I think I will always go back to the values, and that around that we can rebuild ourselves. And I would encourage everyone to actually do this exercise. The last thing which kind of come to my mind is, there's a quite good book, a very short, not big, of Susan Salberg, the lady who is connected to, works for Facebook. And at some point, so actually the book is called Option B.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like the review of this book. She wrote this book with one of the psychologists, Grant, and I think Andrew Grant, if I'm not wrong, I think. And you know what? It's actually because what inspired her is obviously trauma growth. She lost her husband suddenly, but it's actually I found it's actually the title option B, and I keep telling to crew that I work with and to people, and I talk to them. Okay, I know that sometimes we're so holding to option A, we just don't want to give up on the option A. We just, you have to face it, you know, at some point you need to accept it. If the option A, which is your favorite option, this is what you want, is not available, look for option B, and there are option Bs, yes, and this is how we can rebuild ourselves, and this is where the resilience comes and everything. And again, what we said, sometimes it just requires some patience and look around ourselves, and that's come to mindfulness again, because you know it comes to pay attention, start noticing things around you, and the more opportunities will come. Yeah, so that's probably a kind of final thing that I would want to leave everyone's with, and something that I believe and I encourage myself with, you know, that if my option A is not available, I'll look for option B for myself, and yes, that's all what we all need to do currently.
Yes. So is there any kind of advice that you like to give, you know, to the people who are now in this difficult moment of being aware that in a moment they might lose their job?
Take a slow deep breath. Yes, okay. And I think be ready, be prepared that, like I said, there will be those moments of discomfort, panic, anxiety. I've seen people with really severe anxieties, you know, of you know, seeing like the world is almost ending for them with all things that they used to have, they had around themselves. So hard to give up. But this is normal, and I think we all experience this in different ways. So be prepared that this may come, and then yes, a bit of sadness and grief, and you know, we need to acknowledge some losses. But like I said, once you move to the acceptance, and there's another book, amazing book of one of my guru, Tara Brach, which called Radical Acceptance, because the acceptance is the stage that we need to go through to make the transformation. Yeah. So, but it's not gonna happen if we not accept the losses and we not accept those discomforts. You know, we cannot overjump that, we cannot numb that, you know, it's not going to be like all positive, you know. Sorry to say, but this concept never they are not realistic, you know. So you cannot just say, no, I love it, it's perfect. I love the job, and then just so accept that, and then move, yes, and then look for the options, you know, just patiently look for the options, and talk to people that helping you, that you feel inspired by, not the people who are just kind of pull you down, because you also have to be very mindful who is actually supporting you or who is steering you at some direction. So we have to actually look into, so again, the sequence is like this. Once we got through these difficulties, look at it, what's important to you, ask yourself this question many times, and the next question would be, okay, who can support me in this? Yeah, so who can support me in going in the value direction? Yes, and people, and I will always say this exercise, so in the circle I would say, what's my priority, what's my values, who can support me with those values? Okay, write it down, because visually we can actually grab it better. And then outside of circle, things that are pulling us away from the values, and people who are actually can start sabotaging us and making us, and really maybe stay away a little bit from those people, you know. But you have to make this conscious map. Yes, and I think that would be a good exercise, and I'm sure that you're probably using similar things when you're doing your coaching with the clients, you know, just to help them to differentiate and establish that support system who will support them in their chosen value direction, you know. So pick your compass. Everyone have their own compass. Don't borrow the compass from someone else, you know. I'm not going to ask you, Mirella, for your compass just to guide me. Yes? So build your own compass.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I did when I finished flying. I can see your kitty behind you.
Okay. Yeah, the cats are, yes, that's my calmness exercise, you know. They just give me some and they always want to say the last word in the interview.
That's why I think he or she showed up, yeah, to sum up. All right.
Connected with the nature, and the animals are part of this, you know. We are not the only one in this planet. So yeah, so like I said, and especially if you have a family, also look into things that are supporting not only yourself but also the family. So you have to probably make a more conversation around that with your partner, and you know, or take into consideration the needs of children as well, you know, with the change. Okay, I think we need to finish because I'm afraid the more cats will come and join our interview.
Okay, great. I think we've discussed most of the things that we wanted to talk about, and we definitely talk about the really important ones that we should take into account now in this very specific time, I would say. Yeah, so thank you once again for your time and for joining me.
Thank you, Mirella. No, it's you know, like I said, you know, I'm really inspired from what you do, you know, from your continued work and reaching out to you know, the audience of people who are interested or around the cabin crew job, you know, and aviation. And I think we can get from social media so demotivated and discouraged. So I think this kind of conversation is great that it has some space, and we can create a space. So thank you so much for allowing me to talk.
Pleasure to you.
And of course, you know, well done again, and I hope really I wish you all the best with actually trying to continue creating you know, the cabin crew conference in Warsaw around what is important. And I hope maybe you will get some feedback as well from people who follow you from our interview, and they will guide you as well what's the current needs of this population, and then we can feed them more into what would be helpful for them.
Yes, let's hope we'll get some comments and some maybe messages also from others who would really like to listen to something. We can always organize some kind of webinar or another conversation, maybe even live, to let people ask questions and discuss things that are bothering them.
Okay, thank you so much, Mirella. Thank you.
Thank you, Aga. Hope to see you soon again.
Yes, I hope so too. Hopefully December, we're gonna try to reach Poland.
All right.
Okay, thanks.
If not, we always have this chance to talk online these days. So very popular.
Very efficient as well, you know, have lots of benefits. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.